Welcome back to another episode of Mystica. I'm Nexa.
I'm Juniper.
And today we're going to talk about collective consciousness, law of attraction, manifestation.
Manifestation, that's right. What are the basics of manifestation?
So the whole idea of manifestation, like what is manifestation? It's this idea that we can, with our intentions, bring about something we wish to happen. We can affect change in our world and bring about our goal to happen for us. So like this idea of, I want a Ferrari. So I can then, without doing anything special, I can sit there and with my own intention, basically focus it into being. And then I get a Ferrari. That's like the simplest way to describe manifestation. But it's a bit more complex than that, where it's more about you sort of focus on something that you want, but then the universe will give you these little, like, I call them inspired actions that you need to take that are kind of like following breadcrumbs to get where you need to go that are going to lead you to the Ferrari that you want to get.
Right.
You know, so it's not that you just sit there and they're like, boom, Ferrari in your lap. It's more like the universe says, okay, you want that? I'm going to lead you on the path of least resistance to get you to that thing you say you want. And so that's like this super simplistic, stripped down, like definition from my understanding of what manifestation is. What's your understanding of that?
Pretty much the same thing. Have you ever read or watched The Secret?
Yes.
They explain it so well. It's unbelievable. But with you saying, like, you know, you get these breadcrumbs from the universe that you have to follow, like, do you think that's why a lot of people are so negative about manifestation and they say that it doesn't work, is because they don't want to follow the breadcrumbs? They just want it to fall on their lap.
Well, I think everybody's looking for instant gratification, right?
Right.
Like they think, I want to manifest right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they want it to be there instantly. And some manifestations will happen where it feels super fast, right? And then other manifestations may take days, weeks, months to years to come across, because something that needs to be factored in is what a lot of people who talk about manifestation, you know, talk about this idea of resistance, which is your own fear or your own doubt gets in your way. And so I think that also sometimes even like blocks out your sight of the breadcrumbs, where you're sitting there and you're going, this is never going to happen for me. I just don't believe this is going to happen for me. And there's a big fat breadcrumb sitting in front of you, but you're like, that's not really my breadcrumb. It's probably for somebody else. Even if I did take that, is it really going to lead me where I want to go? I just don't know. I mean, it's so far away that I could get there. I mean, I need a better job to get a Ferrari. And you'll talk yourself out of even taking that first breadcrumb, you know? So I think it has a lot to do too with your attitude on even approaching taking that first step.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to be open to almost everything and anything when you're trying to manifest something. You need to be open to new opportunities and to be taken out of your comfort zone. And I think that's what a lot of people have issues with, is being taken out of their comfort zone. But if you want a Ferrari, look at anyone who has a Ferrari. They don't live in a comfortable lifestyle. Like, they're go-getters. So, you know, maybe you're on Indeed searching for a new job and you see a job that, you know, you got to work a couple extra hours a week and you're like, nope, that's not for me. Well, right there you go. That was your opportunity to get the money that you needed for your Ferrari.
Yeah, I also think, too, one of the things that people don't realize with the manifestation is you need to be somewhat specific about what you want. Like, for instance, one of the most easy manifestations, the most common, I should say, manifestations, people want more money, right? Like, almost everybody, when they look into manifestation, it's one of the first ones people go for, I want more money. But usually, like, it's so general. I just want more money. And so you might find a penny on the sidewalk. Well, that's more money. You have manifested more money.
The universe doesn't understand it in the way that we understand it. The universe could be, like you just said, I want more money. Okay, so the universe is going to give you a penny outside. There you go. There's more money. The universe doesn't know. You need to be more specific.
Yeah, and I think that also has to do too with your resistance. If you really feel like I'm humdrum, money's so hard to get, I can't find a job, no one gives me money, I don't have opportunities, all you may be able to find is a penny on the street. So sometimes I think you even resist yourself out of opportunities the universe can provide. And on top of that, sometimes it'll come in ways that people don't understand, where they'll go, I need $200. So, okay, we're more specific now. Good. First step. But then they get overtime mandatory at work. And they go, I got all this overtime at work. And they end up with $200 extra on their paycheck. Yep. And they, well, that's not what I meant. Well, you asked for more money, specifically $200, and the universe gave it to you because that was the easiest path to bring it to you. So, you get into with manifestation where you can get really convoluted in sort of going, okay, I want $200, but I want it to come in a way that's easy for me, so I don't have to work for it. So you go, okay, cool. You don't have to work for it. And then you find out that your great uncle died. And you get $200 out of the inheritance. And you go, that's not what I wanted either. And so then you go, okay, next time. I want it easy so I don't have to work for it, but nobody dies and nobody gets hurt. And you find this some people get twisted into knots in manifestation, trying to be so specific, but covering all these loopholes and making caveats for things and trying to manipulate it. And I think it's interesting because it just gets so overcomplicated with people trying to control how something's going to manifest in their world.
Right. And then it becomes stressful.
Yes.
And then that adds to that negative aspect of it.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with this idea that we want to control how it manifests.
Yeah.
And sort of what I've learned in my life is, while you want a certain amount of being specific about the things you care about, you also want a certain amount of giving it to the universe to allow an open path and trusting that the universe is going to bring it to you in a way that's positive for you and letting the universe do its job. If you really trust this path, you're really trusting manifestation, you're really working on that, it really helps. But what's going to make a path like that works are things like we talked about in our last recording was meditation. Being in alignment, which is what meditation does. It sort of aligns your energy. It connects you to, if you believe in this idea of you're connecting to guides or to source or to your gods or whatever you believe in, it's connecting those energies. And so when you're aligned like that and feeling positive, then you're going to have your energy vibrating at a positive place. So you're going to attract more positive things. Right. Energy will flow more positively for you. I think the more negatively you vibrate, the more negative things you attract. So when you're trying to manifest, it makes it harder to bring things to you maybe in a more positive way. Mm-hmm. Where it's not that you can't have things done in a positive way, but I think it makes it just more difficult because there's just more resistance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes this whole thing so frustrating, especially when you're trying to explain it to somebody who is set in a negative way where, oh, that could never happen to me. Bad things always happen to me. Yeah, because you are attracting that energy because you're doing exactly what you're doing right now and you're putting that out there into the universe. And the universe sees that and they go, oh, that must be what they want. So it gives you that exactly. But if you change your way of thinking, you change the way that you think about yourself, you change the way you think about everything, and it will manifest. But it's just so hard taking someone out of that stubborn frame of mind and getting them to see there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, to me, it's all about momentum. They have so much negative momentum going that they can't stop it and see the positive, you know? And so it's about trying to work with people to help them slow that momentum down a little bit. It starts with, instead of going jumping right to being positive, like, let's try to maybe start just being like a little less negative.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and I'll say, you know, like, say we're afraid of flying, instead of jumping to like, flying's great, flying's fine. You know, the person's getting afraid to get on the plane because like, I'm gonna die. You know, so instead of going, you know, I'm gonna die, you say, well, why don't we start with, I might not die. While the rest of us are going, that's not really that positive. We're going, but it's much more positive that I'm gonna die, because there's hope.
Right.
Hope's in there. I might live.
Baby steps.
You know, so it's that baby step forward. Then when they're committed to that, they can make the next step of, I probably won't die. Well, that's a little more in the middle there. You know, and then we can keep moving them until we get to the point of like, this is going to be fine.
Right.
I trust that everything's going to be fine.
Right.
But we move those baby steps forward when we're trying to shift that. But it is so hard because people, even people I know that have studied manifestation and studied law of attraction, will find themselves in these loops where they get stuck. And it like, I just want to grab them and shake them and be like, you know this. What are you doing to yourself? You know? Mm-hmm. And then I'll catch myself in the same loop on something where, you know, you can't see the forest for the trees, and you don't realize that you're doing the same thing to yourself on something.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I could never do that thing over there. And, you know, and you realize like you're saying the same thing that person over there you wanted to rattle for, you just did it yourself. You know, it's so funny how easy it is to see everybody else's struggle, but how hard it is sometimes to really like pinpoint your own as you're working with stuff like this. But one of my favorite quotes, and it came from listening to kind of like the masters on law of attraction and manifestation, and this will sort of lead us a little bit into that collective consciousness conversation, Abraham Hicks.
Right.
They say, what you focus on grows. And that is so true. And it's this idea, what you brought up just a little bit ago, where the universe doesn't really distinguish what you're focusing on, what that means. They distinguish where your focus is and gives you what the focus is. So yes and no don't necessarily matter. What matters is I'm really focusing on this thing. So the intense focus is drawing that energy to that thing. So it pulls it towards you. The universe gives you where your energy is focused on. Mm-hmm. It doesn't distinguish whether you're saying, no, I don't want that. Don't give it that to me. Keep it away. No, I don't ever want that to be near me. Or, yeah. Bring it. Yeah.
It just knows your energy is on that.
It sees that your energy is on that.
Right.
And for people who are really great manifestors, like these people who just seem to get everything, it just comes to them. They're the ones who are going, yeah. And you're watching them just, it seems like they think, I would love to have, you know, a yacht. And it seems like the next thing you know, there they are sailing on a yacht. Like they're having these crazy experiences where I would love to meet this celebrity, and they're on vacation, and out of the blue, the celebrity just happened to walk through the hotel right past them, and they bump into each other somehow. You know, they just have these experiences where you just can't explain how they have it. And they're because they somehow live in this way that they remove their resistance, and they just believe they can have it, so they do. Mm-hmm. You know, and a lot of times people look at those people with jealousy because, well, you know, it's not right. And it's not that it's not right, it's just you're jealous because you haven't figured out the way. And the way really is removing that resistance.
Yes.
But when you focus on something and you say, no, I don't want that, you attract it. So a lot of people who fear something, desperately fear something, often end up encountering the very thing they fear the most in some form or fashion, or at least attract a lot of people who have encountered that thing. And they surround themselves with that energy because that's what they're so focused on. Mm-hmm. So it's that idea of understanding that if you don't want that energy, instead of focusing on what you don't want, you want to try your best to start focusing on what you actually do want, so the universe will start bringing you more of those things and those experiences.
I like it. I like the tip of, if you want something, live like you have it. Act like you already have it. And it'll come to you because, like I've said so many times already, the universe doesn't know the difference.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting, you know, with that statement, because I've seen a lot of people struggle with that a lot, like act as if. It's a very powerful thing, but some people go, well, isn't that lying? I don't really have it, but I'm out there pretending like I have it to people. I'm presenting myself as if I have it. And I think there's like this line of it where it's more about, and I sort of like the way that, again, we, touching back to sort of Abraham Hicks with it, where they talk about you're connecting more to the feeling of having it.
Yeah, absolutely.
How would I feel if I had this? I would feel joy. I would feel excitement. I would feel exuberance. I would feel free. Maybe a Ferrari for that person in the very beginning. They would feel free. The open road is theirs. No limits. They could go as fast as they wanted. It's almost as if they could fly. Maybe that's how they would feel. So you focus on that feeling. You feel as if you already have that feeling. It's already yours. And then there it is. Before you know it. Because you didn't focus on, how am I going to get it? How am I going to pay for it? What's going to happen? You didn't even worry about that. But next thing you know, boom, somehow it's dropped at your feet. Mm-hmm. It could be a competition. It could be something you don't even know. It just will happen for you. And I think the biggest thing in manifestation that sort of is, underemphasized is the how is not your business. It is none of your business. Get your nose out of there. It is not your job to figure out how it's coming to you, or how you're going to make it happen, how to plan for this. Not your job.
Right.
Stop it. Stop sitting there going, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to make my business thrive? How am I going to make it big in this, industry? Instead, just sit there and how am I going to feel when it happens? And celebrate that feeling and feel good about it and feel excited about it, and focus on that. Because that's what will do it for you. The universe is going to take care of the how. If you really believe you got it, it's just a short amount of time for the universe to just align the right stuff and you follow those breadcrumbs and you'll have it. But it's really going to be about you listening to the universe and sort of following that, I think.
Yeah. Follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But sort of taking a step into collective consciousness, I know you have an interesting study to share.
I do. Okay, so I cannot remember where I heard this, but there was a study done to basically graph the collective consciousness. So there's a way that they can measure it. And this study was done in New Jersey, and anyone who's listening, feel free to Google it. It's a graph that measures our collective consciousness, proving that we are all connected in a way. And what's very interesting is some of the data that was shared was right before September 11th, there was a spike in our collective consciousness. So we were all hypersensitive right before that happened. And I just think that is so interesting, especially it just shows what we're capable of, on such a different scale. It just blows my mind.
What's always really cool when science grabs a hold of a spiritual kind of topic and sort of flashes a little bit of light on it and says, maybe this is the thing, you know? And then it's sort of that validation for those of us who've experienced different things.
I'm sorry that I can't really go too into detail with it because it's just such an incredible piece of data. It really is. But science proven this. This is a game changer, and I don't know. I always have said that science is just proven magic. Mm-hmm. I think they're all interwebbed and connected. I
totally agree. I think just because science watches the process happens and goes, oh, this is how it happens, so we're going to call it this, it's ours now, doesn't mean it's no longer magic. Or it's no longer spiritual.
Exactly.
Just because you watch the process and call it something doesn't mean it's no longer magical.
Just because you can prove it with your numbers. Okay, cool. You got numbers and you can prove that this miracle is a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You've taken modern medicine and you've said, oh, okay, this is scientific. Okay, but you've learned your ways of modern medicine through people who've messed around with herbs and messed around with like help me.
Well, herbs and fungus and all sorts of things in our world. We have crystals and rocks. Look at the fact we have crystals in our radios. We have the piezoelectric effect that crystals actually generate their own energy, especially when applied under pressure. There's these amazing properties of things that metaphysical people have talked about for centuries that science now sort of takes advantage of and uses in different things that they do. And they go, well, it's science now. It's proven. It's no longer woo-woo. So it's fine. It's ours. And they put it in a box and put it on a shelf, and now it's in a book, and it's in a textbook, and it exists now. And it's sort of funny how it becomes this weird sort of space, how we do that,
right.
Back and forth with things. But at the end, I've always agreed with what you put forth, this idea that it's all the same.
Yeah.
Just because you can describe a process doesn't mean that it's any less magical. And this idea, too, that people say that magic is supernatural. It's not. Magic is natural. Magic works within the natural world. It's creating things, change and things to happen within the natural world in a natural way. It's just basically taking things and shifting them around so you get a desired result. To me, magic and manifestation are two heads of the same coin in a lot of ways. Magic is a different process to get the same result. Manifestation requires a lot of working on yourself, centering yourself, keeping a positive attitude, keeping yourself in a positive headspace. It's a lot of self-work when you're working with manifestation. You have to keep yourself really, in a good space to really get the most out of manifestation. So it's very difficult for a lot of people. I think that's why a lot of people kind of hang it up, get rid of it. It doesn't really work that well because it requires a lot of personal sort of work on yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's difficult.
Yeah.
Magic, while it does kind of call that forth from you, it doesn't require the same amount of digging in the same way because you're using other things to generate energy to send forth to get your desired change instead of just trying to connect with the universe and kind of ask and intend for it to change. To me, it's like you're adding oomph to the manifestation with energy instead of just trying to will it to happen without the extra oomph. Kind of those, to me, in my understanding, kind of the two differences. You don't need magic at all to manifest. That's perfectly true. But you can definitely use magic to manifest many things. So to me, they go hand in hand. You can use both at the same time. They both go together. They both work together. It's just two different processes, I think. But the collective consciousness is definitely an interesting space. Abraham Hicks, I mentioned earlier, is a woman, Esther Hicks, who channels a collective consciousness, who named themselves Abraham, and she channels them and speaks with people. She travels around the country, though now with COVID, she's doing online sort of things, workshops, instead of doing her traveling, which makes sense. We're all changing how we do things now. But it's interesting because she's kind of got her own small branch of the collective consciousness sort of that she's talking to.
So how does that work with her? Like, are these beings like of Earth, or are they?
Yes,
they are. Okay,
they were all human.
Oh my
that
goodness.
She's talking to.
Are they like existing? Right?
No.
Okay.
So most of the, at least from my understanding, most of them are ones that had lived and passed, and so they're the ones that are kind of up there.
Wow. Okay.
So she's talking to the ones that have passed. So they're still connected to the collective consciousness because they're human. Or were human. I suppose they're spirit now. So even though technically they're human spirits, so they're still human. They're just humans without a body, no flesh suit. But so she's talking to this spirit is talking to her, and so she has access to sort of that collective consciousness. So it's interesting because it's not the way that we think of it when we're here on Earth, where we think of the collective consciousness that we have access to, like the one you talked about spiking in the study, where we would have gone it's what we're sort of tapping into when I have an idea for the Post-it note and someone, 3 countries over has the idea for the Post-it note. He actually takes it to production and I go, I had that idea.
Yeah.
But, those are the things. Like, for instance, did you know that there's a study, and this was kind of in psychology when I was studying college. Mm-hmm. There was this island that had a bunch of these monkeys on it. And they all started using these tools in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then an island, several miles away, like way over here, that they could have possibly known anything about each other, started doing the same thing. And they have absolutely no way to know how, at the same time, they started doing the same thing.
I have heard about this, yes.
And it's fascinating. There is a thing in physics, I used to know the name, but it escapes me, where you have this one particle that can be on one side of the universe, and it can split, and the other half can be on the other side of the universe. And when you manipulate one, the other one reacts the same way, without them having any kind of way of communicating that we can understand. And no matter how far apart they are, they will act the same. So there's some kind of communication that's happening that we don't understand. So even science has these things that they're studying, like the monkeys and that they don't have full explanations for. So that, to me, is something that sort of stands to show that a thing like a collective consciousness, a communication, a link happening would make a lot of sense to me. So, those are things that fascinate me when you have these scientific theories where they go, we sort of have this thing happen and we're not really sure why. Because we can't go further with it yet, with what tools and things we have. Because we have to remember, science is the empirical study. What does empirical mean? It means observable. So if they can't observe it, they can't study it. So it's not science's job to say that God doesn't exist. All a science's job to do is say, hey, that's a freaky looking mushroom. What's it do? Let's poke it and see what happens. That's what science's job is. We've sort of taken this weird step with science where we go, it's become its own kind of religious zeal in its own way, where prove to me that this is real is what we say to science now. But that's not science's job. Its job is to observe and document, test and replicate and see how something works, so they can say, okay, we think we know this is what this is and this is what it does and this is generally how it works. And we write that down and go, okay, there it is. And then we get better tools and go, we were wrong, this is what it does. And that's science. So a true scientist would say, we can't document God right now. We have no way to say it doesn't exist or does exist. Therefore, the possibility is that God does exist, or that a God force exists, because there right now is no way to prove it doesn't. So they can't say it doesn't exist. So it's sort of that idea that they only study the observable.
Exactly.
Which is why the study of the collective consciousness is very fascinating that you found.
Yes.
Because it's sort of, as they're getting these different tools that are able to tap into these different things, they're starting to sort of cross over into some of these spaces and get data that's making them really have to consider other things. There was a scientist that started studying near-death experiences. He started hanging out in emergency rooms and studying people who were having these where they would die on the table and come back. And time after time after time, they would describe doctors that were in the room, even the songs that were playing during surgeries and things where they died. And they had no way that they would be able to hear it because the music would never start till after they were well under anesthesia for surgeries. They would have what the nurse looked like or different details that they wouldn't be able to even see from the table. They would be able to describe the number of people, different things. And, the things are unexplainable unless you're having like an out-of-body experience at the very least, and then different documentations about how they talked about, the ones that left and sort of crossed over and had the experience of what happened after that. A lot of people had different experiences that sort of linked up in similar ways. So it's very fascinating that science is now you're having these kind of scientists exploring that arena
Right.
and documenting it, where we're going, okay, the first step is going, let's start talking to people and writing it down in a scientific way. Not just going, okay, we're gonna, yeah, that's your story, whatever. We're not really paying attention. Now, if we're documenting it from different sources in a consistent scientific manner, we can start to say, well, there's correlation happening here. And these people are coming from different places, different countries, but they're having the same experiences. There's something interesting happening here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
curveball, do you think that collective consciousness has anything to do with reincarnation?
well, I think the idea that I've heard more than just the Abraham Hicks people talk about, like, dead people being involved in the collective consciousness. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if that's sort of part of that, like, we go back to the collective consciousness, and if we come back from there to here, like, we leave the collective consciousness, like, you float in the ball of collective consciousness, and then you come down to earth from there, but you stay connected. Then your body dies, and you float back up to the collective consciousness. You decide, hey, I want a body again, and you find a way back down here.
So, the collective consciousness, see, for someone who is so interested in it, I have not done enough research on it. So, are you saying that that's like the hangout spot for the deceased?
I mean, that's a theory. There's so many theories on, like, where you go when you die.
Right.
You know? So, like, there's a theory that that's where you go. Mm-hmm. Some people theorize that the collective consciousness, somewhere in that is where you access the Akashic records, where that would be like your book of your life, and you can edit that book. You could, like, erase things from your past. Mm-hmm. Like, some people believe that, like, you can really literally rewrite your entire life if you get access to your book in the Akashic records. Some people believe the Akashic records are just the records of humanity, and that's why they exist within this sort of collective consciousness. Some people believe they exist in other places. You know, it's so sort of like, as you dig into some of this stuff, it goes like, it depends on who you talk to and, like, what lore you read as to where, like, some of this stuff leads. Some people just believe it's kind of like a psychic connection between all of us.
Right. That was my next question, was people who are psychic and have visions and stuff like that. Do you think that it's because they're, like, more in tune with the collective conscience? I mean, am I saying that right? I feel like I'm not saying
consciousness.
Consciousness. I've been saying.
It's not like let your conscience be your guide. Like, it's not like Jimmy Cricket on your shoulder, but consciousness.
Consciousness.
There you go.
Collective consciousness.
There you go. Yeah. It's fine. We get what you're saying.
I'm an airhead, so
you're fine. You're fine. I think that that maybe. It may be that that's what we're picking up on. It may be that you're just sort of able to pick up on a lot of different energies. And it's just that you're able to pick up on things beyond that. Because there are things other than stuff that's linking you to other people that people pick up on too psychically. Mm-hmm. You know, so people will see all sorts of different stuff going on around them. They don't, you know, other than maybe just, like, deceased people or visions. You know, sometimes people see stuff involving, like, the astral plane and other things that wouldn't necessarily be linked directly to the collective consciousness. So I don't know that I would say it is exactly that. I think anybody who's more sensitive is more sensitive to everything. So they would be more sensitive to the collective consciousness, maybe even able to, sort of like this woman Esther Hicks claims to, where she claims to tap into them, where she claims to talk to people who are part of the collective consciousness, that reach out to her and deliver messages through her to help other people connect. Because their theory is that anybody can connect to it. Like, and that's one of the things I do actually enjoy about them when they try to teach about law of attraction and everything, is they always talk about the fact that, like, everybody's connected. Anybody can talk to the collective consciousness. Like, they use this person, Abraham, and that's how they reach this Esther Hicks lady. And they're like, this is just her journey. You have your own journey. You don't need to reach out to Abraham. You have your own people. Like, you got people. Everybody has people. So you just reach up. They're there. You can have a conversation. You center yourself open. You'll find your conversation. So I don't know if that's sort of they're trying to say, like, your guides are really part of the collective consciousness. And that's really what everybody's talking to anyway.
You're blowing my mind. Like, I don't know. Like, the more you explain it, the more things are clicking. And I'm like, I get it. I'm really going to have to look into this Abraham Hicks. You are not the first person to bring her up. Them up, sorry.
Well, it's interesting. They were actually... The person who wrote The Secret actually talked to Abraham Hicks.
No
yes.
way.
The whole reason they wrote The Secret was they were an avid listener and follower of Esther Hicks and Abraham Hicks.
Stop.
And they felt at the time that because it was a channeled message, people weren't all going to listen and receive it. Because you have to remember, this started back in like the 80s.
Okay.
So it was like real woo-woo for back then. I mean, it's woo-woo for now, man. Like right now people are like, you channeled what? I'm not gonna lie. I kind of accidentally listened to some stuff on YouTube one day because it sort of like I was just listening to random stuff and it sort of ended up, their stuff clicked in and I liked what they were talking about and didn't realize till I was a couple recordings in and that, this lady's channeling some stuff and I'm like, all right, I don't know about that. And then like, Abraham, and I'm like, wait, but it was too late. I was hooked in, and so I just listened to their stuff. But, like, I'm not gonna lie. Even I would have been a little like, I don't know about this chick. So, the person who wrote The Secret sort of felt that way also. Mm-hmm. So, she wanted to broaden the message in a way that would be more palatable to more people. Mm-hmm. And so, they're all about, and I'll say them, because it's like Esther and Abraham, the whole
family.
The whole family, all of them. They all want the message out.
Right.
They don't necessarily care if they get full credit. So she said, all right, can I talk to you then? And, back and forth and get some stuff from you. And so I can write this book. And then I'm not going to give you credit. The whole goal is so this is a separate thing so people don't get freaked out by you. And they were like, sure. So she wrote the book. And that's where The Secret came from.
Wow.
And there's actually a recording. There's probably more than one, but that was a recording. Abraham Hicks on YouTube.
No.
She told the story. Well, Abraham told the story. Someone told the story. Them, out of their mouth, the story came of how they actually are behind the secret behind the secret.
That is wild.
And the whole reason they did it was so that more people would have access to this information because it was very new, especially when the book was first written. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we had the subsequent movie that was made. But yeah, and now the newer books that were written after The Secret were ones that the author did totally on their own and kind of ended up following their own track. And that even the Abraham Hicks people say anything after that, the first Secret book, she sort of went on her own journey. They don't necessarily even fully agree with things or they have their own opinions on things, so...
I didn't know she wrote any more books.
Apparently she did. I didn't know either. But, so the important thing is this idea that they were just saying that, like, we're behind that first book. Mm-hmm. And they actually, interestingly enough, there was a person who channeled before they sort of came forward, and they went by the name Seth instead of Abraham. So apparently there was a person before Abraham Hicks that was kind of around that, so that was kind of interesting, like, things came in stages.
Yeah.
So, just weird.
That is very weird. That's very cool, though.
And I apparently know a lot more about them than I realized.
Oh, my goodness. I can't even remember how old I was. But my sister gave me that book when I was, like, a teenager.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I can think about things and it'll happen? No way. And I read that book cover to cover. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I messed around with it. And I think I manifested, like, a feather or something.
Yeah.
Because I saw that some lady in there manifested a feather. She, like, thought about the colors and everything and thought about it every day. And I did it. I just wanted a little white feather. And a little white feather appeared, and I was like, get out. That's awesome. But then I never, like, dabbled in any of that or messed with it. You know, you're a teenager and you're worried about other things. Yeah. And then later down the road, I think it was I went for a tarot reading, and that's what plunged me into...
Just pushed you the rest of the way over the edge.
After that day, my life changed completely. It's been wild. But no, I didn't know that, and that is really cool, and I'm definitely going to dive into that.
And the really cool thing about them is YouTube, again, my favorite thing. And again, you don't get paid by YouTube or anything like that. You just use YouTube. So you can find a lot of their stuff on there. It's in like bite-sized pieces. Usually they're like 15 minutes long or so. Many different people post the recordings. It's not usually like they have their own thing that they post from, but a lot of people post bite-sized recordings, and like I'll just let it play. And sometimes when I'm doing stuff, washing dishes, whatever, and they're having conversations with people in these workshops. There have been so many times where like they're having a conversation, and the conversation they're having, I have no interest in. It has nothing to do with me. But the guidance that they're giving the person, there's like something in there where I'm like, oh, that is all the stuff I needed to hear about what's going on in my head right now. Even though the conversation the workshop person's having and their questions are like, I don't even care about that. That has nothing to do with me. But like just in something in there, like it's just like the universe has sort of spoken to me through like these recordings. It's been like the weirdest experience of my life, because I would never like have thought that would be something that would be that powerful for me. And I sort of found these recordings at a time in my life that was like very dark. I was going through a lot of stuff. One of those periods where like I just didn't know how I was going to make it through like the next step. And these sort of found me through that. So it was just sort of this really weird experience of the high vibrational energy, I think, of them. I don't know, there's something about that even when I'm feeling low, I'll just play the recordings, even if I don't even care what they are. Like I'll look up the name and I'll just hit play and let it just randomly, as YouTube does, weave its way through their recordings. And they'll just randomly play ones.
And I believe that like the universe works its way through that too.
Yeah.
You know, like the message that you just need to hear just happens to be in the video that you just happen to click on because you just happen to needed to hear some background noise.
Or it'll be playing for a while and I won't hear anything of it. It's just noise, but all of a sudden I'll hear it.
Yep.
For no reason. You know? There's cool moments. Yeah, I love that.
I do too.
So yeah, I highly recommend checking them out. And just giving it a try. And the cool thing is you can look them up for like questions you have, or anger, or you know, different emotions you're struggling with involving like manifestation and things like that, or how to overcome different emotional things, because they sort of lead you to a more positive place.
I just made the connection that we were talking about manifestation, and then we switched to the collective consciousness. and when we first started, I was like, wait, those two don't really intertwine. And then I just found out that Abraham Hicks helped with The Secret.
Boom. It's all together.
Whoa, my brain has just popped. I am deceased.
Sorry, we'll bring you back to life here. More to talk about. So one thing we really haven't talked about, we talked about like manifestation, and we talked about collective consciousness. We haven't really talked about the law of attraction.
Okay.
Right? Which is like what Abraham Hicks is all about, and sort of dictates manifestation, right? The law of attraction.
Yeah.
Kind of like important part of the piece of the puzzle and the pie. So the law of attraction is this idea of sort of, we mentioned it, but didn't mention what it was, like what you focus on grows. It's the law of attraction.
Right.
We didn't title it. We just said it and then like walked away from it. So that is the law of attraction. And this idea of really understanding, though, how powerful that is. And what people don't understand is they'll go like, I'm not really into the law of attraction. That's kind of like not really being into gravity.
Yeah.
I'm not really into gravity today. I'm just going to float around. You know, like your pencil, if you drop it, it's not going to fall up. Just because you didn't feel like doing gravity today. Because mom didn't teach you about gravity, you're not going to have yourself floating off to space. Like, it's going to be a thing that's going to be part of your life, whether or not you choose to use it. Whether or not you choose to pay attention to it, I guess is a better phrase, not use it because it's there. So that's an interesting thing that sort of, again, because I'm quoting a lot of their stuff, I don't want to sound like I'm stealing it, so Abraham Hicks brings that forth really hard in a lot of their recordings to people. That idea that you're not like using the law of attraction or not, okay? This isn't like a tool the way you think of like a tool. It's like,
Right.
you know,
It just is.
it is.
Yeah.
So you can work with it in a way that helps your life ease and be more positive and make your life more successful, or you can fight it and have it make your life more stressful. So it's just this idea that it exists. So we're teaching you it does exist. And we're teaching you that there are ways that you can work with it so that you can have a better life, an easier life, a life that is more fulfilling, more satisfying, more happy for you. You know, but it's this idea of understanding that you make your reality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. There's so many times I'll be out. Like, my husband is like a big road rager when he drives. Like, not crazy road rager, but like, he just like...
I've experienced...
expletives, yelling at the cars, expletives. He might roll out his window and yell, and I'm like, please don't, they might have guns. You know, kind of the feeling. Love my husband, but that's one of his things. So he has a bad time every time he drives almost. Like the bad drivers on the road are going to find him and go slow in front of him and do weird things. So I always make the joke in my mind that he has bad driving karma. I have good driving karma. Things seem to go pretty good for me. There's parking spots available. Things tend to just go smoothly. And so like I just laugh because he gets in the car. He expects that there's going to be someone in front of him who's going to drive slow or be stupid. And by darned it, he finds them. He's going to find at least one, no matter how short our drive is, most of the time. No matter how good of a mood he's in, he's going to find them. And it's that, like, manifestation. He is so good at that manifestation. Like, I make jokes at him, because he's a fairly spiritual person. So I'm like, why do you do this to you? And he'll just make jokes.
Why do you do this to you?
He just makes jokes about it, and, like, he doesn't get serious about it, because he's not into, like, the law of attraction, manifestation, getting into all that whatever stuff. He knows it exists and whatever, and does his own stuff, but he's just, like, whatever. It's not my fault that they're there. I'm like, they're there, but you bring them to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you attract this to you. Why do you do this to us? And so there's just this, like, it's sort of funny watching somebody who overall does very good with a lot of things, but just, like, in this one arena, smacks themselves in the face over and over again. You know, and we watch, like, law of attraction in action. You know, the road can be clear. Driving down the highway. Someone's going to get off that exit, though, in a hurry, just to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's so funny every single time. But that's law of attraction.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot of it is about expectations, right?
Right.
I expect this to go well. And if I generally expect it to go well, most of the time it'll go well. Now, if I'm in a funk, it might not go so well because my energy is very low vibrational. That idea of like misery loves company is this idea that, you know, my energy is low vibrational. So what's it going to want? Low vibrational energy to chill with.
Yep.
If your energy isn't low vibrational, you're killing my low vibrational buzzio.
Yep.
So we're going to bring you down so you're low vibrational.
And that's why you'll notice when you go on your spiritual journey and you start to raise your vibration and you start to feel better about things, a lot of the negative people that are around you are not going to want to be around you. Or they're going to try to make you so miserable that you just don't want to be around them anymore.
Yeah, we need to do like a whole talk just on that topic.
Right.
Like that is so deep and so important because it even goes into your family and
absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely.
Like everything starts falling away from you as your vibration rises. It's replaced with all sorts of amazing things and people, but a lot of stuff falls away and you reach this point where you either keep holding on to all the stuff that's falling away, trying to keep it, or you learn to let go and embrace what's coming, the positive.
Yes.
And that's what this sort of manifestation journey takes you on, though. Mm-hmm. You know, if you really want to manifest, you really want to go, you have to learn that happiness is a choice. And you have to learn how to be unconditional in your joy and in your happiness. And that means that just because your partner is having a miserable moment, that doesn't mean you have to go down there and join them.
Exactly. Like,
you don't have to. I don't care if they want you to. You don't have to. you are perfectly fine being up there enjoying your day just because they broke their thing or spilled their cup or, you know, someone yelled at them at work and they're just irritated about it or whatever their thing is. They're stomping around the house. You don't have to go down there and join them now and start stomping around the house too. And we find ourselves a lot, if we start paying attention, doing that. We match moods. Like there's this one meme on Facebook people share all the time of this one woman with this like kind of like serious look on her face. And she says, "You're going to decide how we're going to act because I match moods."
Oh,
and
that's
like
so toxic.
And I'm like, that's so sad.
Oh.
You're giving that person all your power.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they have that on there, the way that woman's like whole look is she looks like she's badass. Like, you decide how we're gonna act because I match moods. And the problem with that becomes you're giving that person all your power.
Yeah.
Instead of you deciding how you're going to act,
you're going to let them.
You're going to let them decide.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if someone wants to be confrontational or wants to be a bitch or whatever, you can just walk away. Or you can look at them and go, "No, thanks. I'm enjoying my day and I'm going to keep on keeping on." Yeah. And you can go over there with that. What you'll find a lot is when you raise your vibration, you're going to have less and less and less negative interactions with people. It's like the universe just pushes them out of your way to the left. You'll even get to the point where, like, you stop seeing the negative things or hearing the negative statements. Like, I'll be with people and they'll be like, "Oh my God, did you hear what she said over there?" And I'll be like, "What? What?" And I literally missed the whole moment. And I don't even know what I was thinking about. I was just like, "Oh, there's a bird." You know, like, distracted by life. And they're like, yeah, he totally said some shit to her.
Oh. On that note,
it is time for us to sign off. I know we're kind of like all over the place, but we're guided by the universe, so this is kind of our conversations. I promise you we'll find a better way eventually, but maybe you like this way. Tell us, do you like this way? Do you like how we are?
Yes.
We have an Instagram and a Facebook at Mystica. Look us up.
Yes.
Like us. That's where you can like us.
Yeah.
And that's where you can share us. Invite your friends.
We're new to this, but we're very excited to be on this journey with you.
And let us know other stuff that you're interested in us talking about. And share your own stories and the stuff that we don't remember the names to. If you remember the names, feel free to share them for the benefit of others. Like the scientists that I did not remember the name of. So, go. Thank you for coming.
Bye.